Welcome back to the process, y'all. It's your boy Ralph. We're here to talk fantasy football championships. We made it. It's been a long, grueling year, but here we are. Here we is, and so we're going to talk about it. If you are a repeat offender, welcome back to the process. If you're a first-time offender, we love new troublemakers, so welcome to the bunch. Just going to go through it. Not our usual format for the process. If you're new to this, generally a couple of different segments during the year, kind of break down the uh, games more in depth. But as we fold the year down, there's a little more to focus on. The focus can be more intent on a few games. There's a lot of people playing for nothing, and it looks like it. So we don't have to go so intently on those. And we can focus on what we need to talk about the fantasy football championships, the real playoffs here and beyond. That's where the direction of the show is, right? Obviously, seasonal football not to be too relevant after this week, next week, and then we pivot back to DFS. If you're already been knocked out, pivot back to DFS. But certainly a lot of action to be had here this week. So all the hard work is led here, as we said, is to open the show. So if you are in a championship game, you got to give yourself a big pat on the back because listen, it's like there's only so few of us that can make it. You could do a good job all year, still get buoyed by injuries and stuff like that. So anybody that has actually climbed through the muck, climbed through the mud, climb through the division, climb through the league, and you made the playoffs, well, you got to feel really good about that. So we want to congratulate all that hard work. If you use the process from the beginning to do it, kudos to you. It works, another year of it working for you. So congratulations there. Me personally in seasonal, when you talk about how I did as we end the year here at the process. So mostly taken out, guys. It's the first time it's ever happened to me in the playoffs last week. So semifinals and bust for all of my seasonal teams, actually. And so now I'm in this opportunity for third place in a lot of my leagues. So, where does that put me potentially? It's like going to try to get my money back, right? That's the first thing is trying to get, break even there. So it's not like a loss. But outside of that, um, still a chance to finish third in most of these leagues. That's nothing to be upset about. It's hard to win fantasy football repetitively over and over again. You want to be up there, you want to have a shot every year. So I'm not going to beat myself up about not taking home not even one championship this year, which is a rarity. Um, but as we pivot back um, and start to spend more time with DFS and things like that, enjoying more success there. Last week, again, the cash game lineup was able to pull through. And I think a lot of the success has to do with, like we said, just focusing on teams with something to play for, you know, even guys with incentives in their contract, guys playing for jobs, teams playing for coaches playing for jobs. That's all good stuff to be invested in here, as a lot of players and teams don't have that. So they are less motivated. It's a hard sport, right? You're not going to bang your head against the wall for nothing. So just using that knowledge, we focus in on guys like Waddle, right? For our cash game lineup, we focus in on players like that and try to get that low ownership. Some of the players we went with were a little higher owned, but just having separation with one or two guys, and really just continuing to work with Judy to the end of the year as he tries to solidify himself as not the problem there, right? In Denver. But focusing on that has really worked. Best ball also, if we really want to talk in total about where we went, this year. So got a chance to kind of, draw back even with best ball, can kind of take down one of those two leagues to make up for the others. And so again, you know, obviously want to win more. Wish we're coming through bigger and better, but we're going to take what we had as a success because that's what it is. So best ball helping to cover our tails a little bit along with these third place games. But ultimately, what you want to do at this point, especially if you're knocked out, if you're in the playoffs, keep burning ahead. It's not over. You still got work to do. For the majority of us, we are not in that scenario. That's just numbers, sheer math. Um, Analyze this year. What happened, right? Like, where are we? What's the goal? Maybe for next year. As I talk about myself breaking, like that's the story of this year is breaking even, right? Proud that we can cover and not like lose. But expecting more wins from the seasonal side of things to cover the DFS losses a little bit. That part didn't work out so much. So that's what I mean when I say analyze this year. And then why is that, right? Did I just, draft bad, or was it injuries, right? And for me, the latter. What do you do when your first round pick, you get a cup first round pick gone week 10, right? Same teams, a lot of times DeAndre Hopkins as well. He loses Kyler Murray. That's like he's gone too, right? So there's a lot of high profile players who didn't finish the year the way we wanted. And that really, shot down some of my team, some of my momentum, if you will. But it lends itself to another point. We need to recognize, and this is moving forward for the process next year, recognize better some of the key opportunities at the end of the year. We talked about this last week, 2 weeks ago, too. Keying in on some of these other players we should be involved in because they have something to play for right now, where the names were not as prevalent before. I'm going to give you two examples right now of guys that if I would have just been more invested in, maybe my season is still going somewhere. Richie James, you look at those numbers over the past couple of weeks. I mean, the Giants don't have anybody. He's out there um, almost every play. So it's like he's got opportunity. He's getting the snaps. He's getting double digit fantasy points, like 18 points last weekend. Like, that's crazy. That's not a household name. But when we talk about end of the year, what's going on? Giants are fighting for their lives right now. You can't run every, you can't run every play can't be to Saquon. So where do you go, right? He's a direct beneficiary of just being a part of the offense. Not a spectacular player, but he's getting touches. This is what I mean when I say end of the year pivots. So having the smarts to say, I got to bench DeAndre Hopkins for this guy. That's really what we're talking about here. Also, Jahan Datson. And this guy for the Commanders, I have on the bench on players where I was playing, Hopkins ahead of him, Thielen ahead of him. We got to be able to recognize where the hot hand is at the end of the year. And I think this is going to be a nice pivot for next year. Some way to think about how we use our bench. This is a more palpable, like we talk a lot about creating a strategy a few weeks ahead to stay ahead as you wind down the year. But now this is a real palpable, well, what does that mean? Well, it means looking at these playoff contenders very closely and not being discriminate about names on the jerseys and just going with what we see on the field. Because James and Dotson, these may be players that help you win a league now at this point, right? So that's a little bit about where what got us here. We can do some would you rather for sure. Run through that as usual. Nick Chubb or T Higgins, for Cleveland, the path to victory would be on the ground in the game that they have this week, but they just don't. If we think about what we were just talking about, they don't have so much to play for. Washington does. Who knows? Maybe they give them a good game. But T. Higgins on the other side versus Buffalo, yes, that's the play here. They are in a head-to-head collision with Buffalo for home field advantage in all of the playoffs. So that's probably something that we want to get invested in. Devontae Smith versus Tyler Algier. I think Smith, his stock is taken down a little bit by Minshew starting, but he did fine last week. But Algier probably. So I think the Saints they're playing for a playoff spot. They're going to be tough. Philly not a lot to play for at this point. Might want to maybe rest guys depending on how they feel about the team. But Algier is playing for a job next year, right? Ritter's playing for a job next year, so those guys are personally motivated. In this scenario, I would take Algier from Atlanta because they're playing Arizona. They can't really stop the run, and they shouldn't really be motivated. I mean, they're done for the. They looked dead last week too, so I like Algier. Jalen Waddle or Tyler Algier. I'm going to say Waddle here because again, high profile game, Dolphins, Patriots. That's for a playoff spot basically. So I know Belichick and the boys are tougher in the secondary, but that's a football game versus this Atlanta Arizona game, which Atlanta should roll. DJ Moore, Najee Harris. Najee Harris probably in a little bit of a better position, but we're going to go DJ Moore because, again, Carolina versus Tampa Bay, that's a playoff game right there. That's for the division. So Tampa Bay, the path to victory against them is running. That's for sure. Like those are the recommendations on the week. But um, you can't run every play. Moore's going to have to be involved if they're going to win that football game. Brandon Ayuk versus AJ Dillon. I'm going to say Dillon here. He's been coming on strong, and I don't see that stopping. Raheem Mostert or Jahan Dotson. And here I'm going to say Dotson just because maybe a tougher matchup. But first of all, Mostert's still splitting with Jeff Wilson. And Jahan Dotson, he's got to be involved in the game plan if Washington wants to take a step ahead. Cleveland can be had in the air. I don't think, McLaurin can get every play. So he might get a lot of attention. This could leave Dotson open to do his thing. So that's a good play there. Aaron Jones or Garrett Wilson. Jones splitting the time with Dillon because Dillon's coming on strong. This week I like Wilson. That Jets Seahawks game, that's a playoff game. Both those teams need that to keep that playoff hope alive, that wild card spot. So we're going to see some good football in that one. A lot of opportunity to pass against the Seahawks. So Mike White back in action. We should see, uh, these guys are in play. I mean, all these guys are in play, but Garrett Wilson certainly. Cole Kmet or George Pickens. I'm gonna take Kmet here. Softer matchup with Chicago going up against Detroit. But Pickens, Pittsburgh going up against the Ravens. I think the Ravens have more to play for. They could be motivated to zero in on a weak offense anyway, right? So I do like Kmet in that scenario there. Drake London or Tyler Algier. I'll say Algier. Ooh, sorry, that was coming on for a while. Ritter doesn't look comfortable back there, especially to start the game. So it's eating into production a little bit. London's been fumbling. Do the math. Zach Moss or Chris Olave. I would have to say probably Chris Olave here because Moss is sort of stuck in a timeshare. There's not a lot for them to play for. New Orleans very much alive in the division still, so they can't really mail this in. They've got Philadelphia. I know the path to victory against Philadelphia is, on the ground perhaps, but they're going to have to do something. So, we'll say Olave because I just don't expect much from Moss. Drake London or Zonovan Knight. I would say Zonovan Knight this week, and then Dante Foreman or Gabe Davis. I'm gonna go Gabe Davis, but Foreman is in a good spot. It's just that we don't know if it's gonna be Foreman or Hubbard that gets more of the run or both of them. But the run game is prime for Carolina for this week. All right, that's a little bit of maybe who I would rather. Sorry about the sniffles, and maybe let's just end it talking about a little bit of what we're going to see on the field from these games. So not quite a reload, a mini reload maybe. Dallas able to, put Tennessee away, even though they made a fair amount of mistakes. Tennessee not a great football team, no quarterback right now. Into the story, Henry burned into the ground, like just not the presence he was at a certain point a few weeks ago. The season is wearing on him, so they're pretty much done for all intents and purposes. Dallas keeping hopes alive for higher playoff ranking. Arizona, Atlanta, we talked about this one a little bit already. Arizona, McSorley. I mean, there's not a lot there. It's not a lot to play for there. They're bleeding to the end of the year. Atlanta, a couple of these guys trying to cement spots for next year. Ritter, Algier, these guys need to prove themselves. So there's more to play for there. I do like Atlanta for that reason. Those would probably be the only guys I'd be invested in. London, if you want to go there, fine. But don't go crazy with this Atlanta team, though. There's a reason why they're 5-10. Chicago at Detroit. Man, I'm like allergic to good analyzing. I don't know. Anyways, Chicago at Detroit. On the road, Chicago. I think Detroit has this one. They have minimal playoff hopes still alive. Oh, boy. They have playoff hopes still alive in Detroit. I think Golf can be okay. The path to victory against Chicago is through the air. Like Golf, like all the receivers. But Chark, man, he's been coming on strong. He's going to be a league winner for some people. So we'll stay with the hot hand there. The run game, I like Swift a little less. I like Williams a little more because he could punch it in from the goal line, but he's not going to get more than like 40 yards on the day, I don't think. But I do like Detroit. So much more to play for. Wouldn't be surprised if Chicago just finally shut Fields down, taking a chance on being injured every day or every week that he's out there. And they're taking a chance on losing that playoff or that that draft pick too. They're in the number 2 spot right now. But if they keep playing games, they might win a game here or there and push themselves out of that. So maybe sit them. Denver at Kansas City. I think Denver's actually going to play a little bit better without Hackett now because they can have some sort of a football organization, if you will. But Kansas City's going to roll. They need this. They're still thinking about the home field advantage. And so obviously Mahomes going to roll. Pacheco and McKinnon. I would say probably more Pacheco this week. If McCole Harmon's going to be back, maybe they try to get him integrated. And I do think that directly takes away from um, McKinnon and not so much Pacheco because McKinnon is a virtue in the passing game, doesn't really do much on the ground. They still use Pacheco for that. Either way, Kansas City gets a win. Kelsey in a great position. They still have something to play for. Their defense, I would play them though, most importantly, because I think this team's going to roll Denver, but Denver could show up and surprise us. So if you want to have some interest for tournaments in like Judy, that's great. Maybe Latavius Murray, fine, but I wouldn't go too crazy with anything else. And then Miami and New England, heavyweight matchup. I think New England's going to be bringing the defense. They should have won that game last week. Problems with the football from Ramon Stevenson. But again, the running game is in a good position. It may be him, it may be Harris. Who knows how Belichick's feeling after last week, but they're going to run the rock. They're going to do what they can. It's not the passing game. So, Hunter Henry, maybe see him get involved, but I wouldn't actually be picking on these New England receivers. Parker, you want some revenge? You could try to go get that. But on the Miami side of things, they're in a good place to run the football too. I like Jeff Wilson Jr. a little more than Mostert as far as the passing game goes. Hill is just so hard to contain, but also Waddle is so good opposite him. So these guys are all systems go again, even though New England's pretty good in the air. Um, Miami's going to be doing their best, but I actually think that their meltdown continues. I think New England finds a way to win this one at home. They played Cincinnati so tough last week, and only a mistake bailed them out of the game they should have won. So I'll take New England to bounce back this week. I think Miami continues to keep crumbling, unfortunately. Uh, guys, I promise I'm not sick. I have no idea what's going on, but all of a sudden my allergies are going crazy. Anyways, we're almost done. Indianapolis at the Giants. Indy's not playing for much. I mean, they're going to split time between Moss and Jackson. Jackson was upset about his involvement last week. Boo hoo. But Pittman and these guys, there's not, there's, I don't really see a lot of something to be excited about. Foles wasn't great last week. I mean, they didn't look good. The Giants, on the other hand, need to get this victory for the playoffs. And so they're going to continue to play football. I think, if you want to get Richie James involved, that's fine. But tougher in the passing game this week against Indy, I would say the path to victory more through Saquon Barkley. Um, Minimal interest in Danny Dimes, Daniel Jones, but really Barkley should lead the way. The Giants defense, that's something if you want to pick up. I think they are the ones that should solidify the win here. So I'm not expecting the Giants to have to do a whole lot to get this win and keep their foot on the gas. New Orleans at Philly. Philly trying to maintain that playoff positioning. I think they have it though. Even if they have a tie record with Cowboys, they have the tiebreaker. So you don't want to play games, obviously, with the last 2 weeks, but Minshew's going to play, should do fine. Offense shouldn't be, missing too many beats. And they'll get a tough opponent in New Orleans. Now, I don't know how much of the game that, Philly lets all their guys play, but I would still take Philadelphia. I'm going to take Philadelphia, but New Orleans is coming to play because depending on how things go in the Carolina Tampa Bay game, they could be live. So I think New Orleans is showing up. They're going to give them everything they have for them. And New Orleans has been good on the road in bad weather. Like they went up and played Cleveland and beat them in Cleveland in that very, very bad weather just a few weeks ago. So I don't think they're going to be scared of a little bit of weather in Philly. They're going to come play football, but Philly is no Cleveland. Philly's going to win. Carolina at Tampa Bay. This one should be interesting because again, this is like Carolina, your fate's in your hands. You could literally win the division here if you're able to pull this off. So Tampa Bay, obviously in a good spot too, to finally put this thing to bed. They should be motivated. For Carolina, the path to victory is on the ground. Both running backs, as I said just a few minutes ago, Hubbard and Foreman should both be full steam ahead. I like DJ Moore, even though the matchup isn't great for him. You're gonna have to get it to your guy if you want to win here. On the other side of things, though, for Tampa Bay, I do like the running game. So, Fournette for sure. I think over White. I think this is his time. They can establish themselves that way along with the defense. Brady will be sufficient, but I don't think he needs to win the game. Um, Evans is out there, but if you want one guy to focus in on, it's going to have to be Godwin for sure. Maybe Evans catches some one-on-one coverage after Godwin's been burning him or something like that. But they're chunking the ball down the field the way Brady sees fit, and it's probably through Godwin, Odin the tight end. If you're in a kind of a desperate scenario, you could play him. But this should be a competitive football game. I'm expecting a lot of defense, but I think Tampa Bay does win this one at home. And then Cleveland at Washington. Run with Chubb, but again, Cleveland, how motivated can they be? They don't have much to play for here, unfortunately, but Washington, a lot to play for. It doesn't look like Gibson. He's banged up. If he can go, he's still banged up. But we like Robinson for sure. Robinson this week. I like Dotson this week. I do think McLaurin's going to get a lot of attention, but Dotson should be okay in a game that Wentz is going to be back starting. I don't know if that makes them better or worse. But the Washington defense, I think they'll be fine against the pass because Chase Young back. I mean, they've got a pretty good pass rush anyway. That can only add to it. Again, path to victory on the ground for Cleveland is running the ball. Don't know how hard they want to run Chubb, though. Maybe you see some more Hunt mixed into a meaningless game for them. But Washington should be able to win this game at home. I know they flub up a lot, but they've got to have this one. And Cleveland has showed no resiliency all year. I think that they will close it out and, try to keep pace with those Giants. Jacksonville in a prime position with the Tennessee loss. This is so fun to watch them do this. They get to go to Houston now. Now it's a divisional game, so Houston's not going to roll over and play dead here. They're going to have to come and show up, but the Jacksonville defense can lead the way. Etienne running the ball can lead the way. That's it. I don't even think Lawrence has to win the game. They should be able to dominate with the run game, and then they should be able to close it out with the defense and put themselves in position to take control of the division. That's what they can do on Sunday. I love Jacksonville in this position. Keep rolling, baby. San Fran at Vegas, not a lot to play for Vegas. Carr isn't going to play this week. We're not sure if McDaniel's still going to be around. I think personally he will be, but Carr maybe not so much, and that's like the whole reason that you got Devontae Adams. So really strange turn of events there, but ultimately San Francisco, I don't know how much they have to play for. They're not going to get home field advantage through the playoffs pretty much. They had the division sewed up pretty much, so they kind of can take it a little easier. Their defense is really good. That should lead the way. They should win this football game. Maybe get Purdy, continuing to play confident, feel good about himself. But specifically, I don't know how involved they need to get their best players. And so I'm not super excited to steamroll out with those guys. I don't even think Debo is going to play. I wonder, with so little to play for in terms of the playoff positioning, what are we really talking about here, right? So, but by virtue of the defense, they can win that football game still, though. And I think they'll do enough to do it. They can put them away early and keep it, out of reach. Vegas playing for pride here. Obviously, Raiders, Niners, there's some, no love lost there. It's, former California battle thing. So we'll see. But I would not expect the Niners to lose that football game. Then we get a playoff battle. The Jets at the Seahawks. Whoever loses is out, right? Depending on what happens with New England and Miami, the Jets could still be live. So they've got something to play for here. And the same thing for Seattle. As far as the Jets go, Zonovan Knight, it's in a pretty good spot, but so is Mike White, Wilson, Moore. These guys are a go. We should see some offense from the Jets. Their defense is pretty good. I think for Seattle, there's going to be less, path of victory, but you got to lean on your guy. You got to lean on your running back. You got to lean on Kenneth Walker for sure and see if he can open things up for you. I do like Lockett if he's back. It's going to be a tougher game for them. Their defense is going to have to show up, and they do have it at home. Maybe they can rattle Mike White, but I think the Jets are probably the better football team with Mike White back, even on the road. I think the Jets are going to upset Seattle here, and Seattle's going to, you know, they looked prime at one point to be in the playoffs, and I think a heartbreak sets in at home this week. Minnesota at Green Bay. Minnesota, I feel like in a similar spot to San Fran. You've got the division. Not sure if you can actually get the um, home field advantage, if you will, because I think, well, Minnesota, well, they're just a game behind Philly, so I guess you could, continue to play forward. But um, maybe they will. Green Bay, obviously, a lot to play for. From the Green Bay perspective, the passing game is, probably something that is in play for sure. If you want to play Watson, that's great. Lazard, I don't mind that. As far as the run game goes, I probably fade Jones after seeing last week, and I'm thinking more Dillon. But the Green Bay defense is probably feeling much better about themselves. I think the path to victory is on the ground. So a little bit of Cook, maybe some Madison, but Minnesota likely going to go there, likely going to go Jefferson. I think he might end up, maybe being into a stalemate in this one, though. Thielen, I have some interest there, but Hawkinson for sure. Um, I think Green Bay wins this game. I think Green Bay is not going to let Minnesota come in here on the road and beat them at home in their playoff hopes. It's a divisional battle rival. I know Minnesota would love to knock Green Bay out if they give them their best punch. That means they're coming out rolling. And like I said, in that case, then I like Cook and I also like Thielen and I like Hawkinson. But uh, I think Green Bay just finds a way to win this one. Rams at Chargers. Rams not a lot to play for. Chargers, pretty much got a playoff spot there. Um, can't really play with their positioning too much, but their defense should be fine against the Rams. This Battle of LA, their defense should be fine. I believe that they're going to win this football game. The Rams are not a great football game. Cam Akers could potentially go off again. Higby also in play, but those would be the only pieces you'd be interested in. You don't want to, unless you want to take some millie maker gambles, you can. But on the Chargers side of things, Eckler, you know, sure. I just think Herbert's hard to invest in. He's been a little tougher to believe in lately, and the Rams not the worst against the pass, but certainly the defense and Eckler in a game that I think that they find a way to win. And then Pittsburgh at Baltimore. Pittsburgh's going to show up to work for sure. I like Najee, not so much the passing game, but Fryermuth maybe. I think Baltimore will win this game. Huntley should play fine. I do like the opportunity for them to just keep it close, and the defense is going to lead the way for Baltimore here. They're going to rely on the defense in this one to get them through because there's going to be no Lamar. I don't think Huntley's going to be a superstar, and I don't think the run game is going to just blast all over Pittsburgh. But certainly, Mark Andrews, sure, you could say he's in play. I just don't want to get invested. I do think that Baltimore's defense will not let Pittsburgh out of there with the victory, though, on Sunday night. And then on Monday, you get the big battle, Buffalo at Cincy. This is for, home field throughout the playoffs. Buffalo's coming in hot. I think the issue, though, is I need to go with Cincinnati. I'm sorry, I need to go with Buffalo because playing New England last week, Buffalo, Cincinnati, they won that game, but it was the turnover by Stevenson really that helped them. I don't think they were well positioned to win that game. They started out with you know, Chase getting the attention from New England, and so they go everywhere. Higgins. And it starts off fine, but after New England makes some adjustments, then we didn't see Cincinnati also make some adjustments and be able to continue to play with them. They were shut down largely in the second half. And like I said, they won that game because of a mistake. So you got to be able to beat everybody. If you can't beat, New England, then that's probably a problem. So I would say, in this one, I'm looking at Buffalo. I think they can go on the road here. I think the elbow looks fine for Josh Allen. they're in play. Stephon Diggs, or if you want to, but more Gabe Davis here. I think they'll find a way to get him the football. Knox even for sure. And then they'll mix in the running back. So Singletary, but I would like him least. I just think, if they want to run, it's going to be Allen. So you could play Allen, pair him with Davis, bring it back with like Higgins if you want to do something like that. But that should be a fun Monday night game, and I do think that Buffalo just goes on the road. They end the Cincinnati win streak. They go on the road. They beat them. They stay ahead of them in Kansas City, is what I think. So that's how I think this week boils down, guys. Appreciate you guys listening. Good luck if you're in the championships. If you're playing DFS, good luck with that. Like I said, I'm not going to give picks because it's pretty simple. Look at who's playing for something, who is out there still trying to make it happen for their playoffs or for their jobs or for their money, and let's focus in on those guys. So good luck again, everybody, and we'll be right back here next week. Peace.